You know how darkness can sometimes feel alive? I used to think it was just my imagination playing tricks on me, until one night, it wasn't. It all started with a simple road trip. Me, John, and Ashley were headed up to a cabin in the middle of nowhere. Typical weekend getaway, you know, away from the stress of the city, the noise, the chaos. But I'll never forget that cabin, or what we found there. Have you ever been somewhere so isolated that it feels like the world has forgotten about you? No cell signal, no electricity, just silence. That's what we were after, a break. But what we got was something far worse. Let me take you back to that night. It was almost midnight. The forest around the cabin was pitch black, like ink, thick and impenetrable. We had a fire going, the only light for miles. The kind of darkness that swallows everything, you know? You can't see past the flames, no matter how hard you squint. We were sitting around the fire, laughing, drinking, when suddenly, it went out. Just like that. The flames, gone in a blink. And the darkness? It was like it was waiting for that exact moment to take over. Have you ever felt the darkness watching you? Like it knows something you don't. It felt alive. I swear I saw something move in the shadows. Something not human. But John laughed it off, said it was the wind. Ashley agreed, trying to stay calm, but me, I wasn't so sure. You could feel it too, right? That sense of unease creeping up your spine. Like something was out there, lurking just beyond what we could see. But we weren't about to let some creepy feelings ruin the night. So we tried to restart the fire. And that's when we heard it. A voice. Or maybe more like a whisper. But not from any of us. It came from the woods. The kind of voice that chills you to your core. It said, my name. I swear on everything. It said my name. John tried to joke about it, but I saw the way his hands shook when he reached for another log. Ashley wouldn't stop looking over her shoulder. None of us wanted to admit it, but we were all thinking the same thing. We weren't alone. Now, here's a question for you. Have you ever had that gut feeling? The one that screams at you to get the hell out? Tell me in the comments if you've ever been in a situation where something just didn't feel right, but you stayed anyway. We should have left. We should have packed up and driven out of there that very moment. But we didn't. And that's when the real horror began. The fire wouldn't light. No matter what we tried, the matches, the lighter, nothing worked. That's when John decided to check the car for supplies. As he walked toward the car, the darkness seemed to swallow him. I kept my eyes on him, but after just a few steps, he vanished. 1 second he was there, and the next, nothing. Ashley screamed his name. We both ran towards where he had disappeared, but it was like running into a wall of ink. We couldn't see anything, not even our own hands in front of our faces. And then, the sound came back. But this time, it was closer. Much closer. It whispered my name again, and I swear, it sounded just like John. We ran back to the cabin, slammed the door shut, and locked it, even though deep down, we both knew a wooden door wouldn't stop whatever was out there. Ashley was shaking, trying to call John's phone, but the signal was dead. The clock on the wall had stopped. The air in the cabin was heavy, like it was suffocating us. And then we heard footsteps, slow, deliberate, outside the window. I froze. Ashley grabbed a knife from the kitchen, her hands trembling so hard she could barely hold it. We didn't dare move. The footsteps circled the cabin, like whatever it was playing with us, testing us. There's nothing quite as terrifying as knowing something is there, but not being able to see it. The footsteps stopped right outside the door. We could hear it breathing, this low, raspy sound, like it was enjoying the fear we were radiating. And then, the door slowly started to creak open, I swear my heart was pounding so hard I thought it might explode. The darkness from outside seemed to pour into the room, swallowing the light from the lantern. And in the middle of that darkness, a figure stood. I couldn't make out its face, just the outline, tall, looming. But it felt familiar, like I'd seen it before, somewhere. It took a step forward, and the floorboards creaked under its weight. Ashley screamed, but the sound was swallowed by the darkness. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. My body was frozen in fear. And then it spoke, in John's voice. "Help me," it said. But that wasn't John. I knew it wasn't. The figure started moving closer, and I knew. We had to get out. We ran for the back door, not daring to look behind us. Whatever it was coming. Now, we ran faster than I thought possible, bursting through the back door of the cabin. The cold night air hit us like a wall, but the fear kept us moving. We didn't stop, didn't look back, just ran straight into the forest. The trees loomed over us, their branches like twisted arms, reaching out to grab us. The darkness was everywhere, thicker than before. No matter where we looked, it felt like something was hiding, just out of sight. But the footsteps, those slow, deliberate footsteps, they followed us. I don't know how long we ran, maybe minutes, maybe hours. Time didn't make sense anymore. The only thing that mattered was getting away. But there was no escape. The deeper we went into the woods, the darker it became. It was like the night itself was alive, closing in on us from all sides. Ashley was ahead of me, her breath coming in ragged gasps. She stumbled over a root, falling hard. I grabbed her arm, pulling her up. But that's when we both heard it again. That voice. John's voice. But it wasn't just behind us anymore. It was all around us. "Help me. Please." The words echoed through the trees, twisting and distorting, as if the darkness itself was speaking. It sounded just like John, but I knew better. I knew it wasn't him. Ashley turned to me, her eyes wide with terror. "What is this?" she screamed. But I had no answers. I didn't know what was happening. All I knew was that we had to keep moving. But then, the shadows moved. I swear to you, they moved. The darkness around us seemed to come alive, swirling like smoke, forming shapes, faces, hands, things that shouldn't exist. One of those shapes reached out, grabbing Ashley by the arm. She screamed, yanking her arm free, but it left a mark, a burn, like she had been touched by fire. We were in a nightmare, but there was no waking up from this one. We kept running, our feet barely touching the ground. The trees were closing in, the shadows following us, reaching for us. But we didn't stop, not until we saw it. A light. Faint at first, but growing brighter as we got closer. It wasn't the cabin, it wasn't a fire, it was something else. At first I thought maybe it was the car, maybe John had found a way out, but as we got closer, my heart sank. It wasn't the car. It was a circle of lanterns, old, rusted, hanging from twisted branches in the middle of a clearing. And in the center of that clearing, a figure, tall, cloaked in shadows, its face hidden under a hood. But the worst part, there were more figures, a dozen at least, all standing perfectly still, watching us. We stopped dead in our tracks. I could barely breathe. Ashley grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my skin, but I couldn't take my eyes off them. They weren't moving, just standing there, staring at us with a hollow, empty eyes. One of them stepped forward, slowly, deliberately, and then it spoke in John's voice. "It's too late," Ashley screamed. I felt the blood drain from my face. My legs felt like they were made of lead, but I forced myself to move. We ran again, but this time, it felt different. The darkness was closing in faster, the figures moving with it, their eyes glowing in the faint lantern light. And that voice, John's voice, echoed all around us. "It's too late. You can't escape." We ran until our lungs burned, until the trees blurred into shadows and our legs gave out. But no matter how far we went, the whispers followed us. The figures followed us. Ashley was crying now, mumbling something about how it wasn't supposed to be like this. But there was no time to think, no time to question what was happening. All we could do was run. And then the ground beneath us gave way. We fell, hard, into some kind of pit. Dirt and roots tore at my skin as I tumbled down, my body slamming against the earth. When I finally hit the bottom, I couldn't move. My whole body was screaming in pain, but Ashley, she wasn't with me anymore. I looked up, my head spinning. The pit was deep, too deep to climb out. I could see the faint light of the moon above, but Ashley was nowhere to be seen. "Ashley!" I shouted, my voice hoarse, but there was no response, just silence. And then the whisper came again. "It's too late." I looked around, my heart pounding in my chest. The pit was empty. Just me and the darkness. I knew it was coming. I could feel it closing in, the shadows at the edge of my vision, twisting, growing. The figures watching me from above, their eyes glowing in the darkness. And then I saw her, Ashley. She was standing at the edge of the pit, her face blank, her eyes hollow. But it wasn't Ashley. Not anymore. The thing wearing her face smiled, and in John's voice it whispered, "It's too late." I don't remember how I got out. I don't remember much after that, to be honest. But when I woke up, I was lying by the road, miles away from the cabin, alone. John and Ashley, they were never found. But I know they're still out there, somewhere, trapped in that darkness. And if you ever find yourself in the woods at night, if you ever hear a whisper calling your name, run. Because when the darkness comes alive, it's already too late. What would you have done if you were me? Would you have tried to save them? Or would you have run the moment you felt something was wrong? Let me know in the comments. And while you're at it, where are you watching this from? I'd love to know how far this story travels, just like the darkness. Oh, and one more thing. Make sure to leave a like if you're still here. Trust me, you don't want the darkness to follow you, too. I left that place behind, but it never truly left me. Days passed, then weeks. The days after they found Ashley's body were a blur. People in town whispered, spreading rumors, trying to make sense of it. But deep down, I knew none of them would ever come close to the truth. The kind of truth that gnaws at you, that keeps you awake at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering when it's your turn. I moved out of the house. Couldn't stay there anymore. Too many shadows, too many memories. I thought maybe if I left, I could leave it all behind, start over. But the thing is, you can't run from the darkness. Oh, believe me, I tried. Moved halfway across the country, even changed my number. But no matter where I went, there it was. A flicker in the corner of my eye. A whisper when the wind howled outside my window at night. And it wasn't just me. Tom called me a few weeks after I left. His voice. I'll never forget the way he sounded, like he was barely holding it together. He told me that he started seeing it too. First it was just shadows in the corner of his vision, like something was always just out of sight, watching him. Then the dreams started. Dreams? I asked him. Not dreams, he corrected. Nightmares. He said that every night he would wake up in a cold sweat, heart pounding, convinced that something was in the room with him. He'd look around, but nothing. The room would be empty. But then he'd hear it. A faint knock at the door, just like the one I heard that night in the cabin. Except no one was ever there. The last time we spoke, Tom sounded worse than ever. His words were rushed, panicked. "I can't sleep, man. I don't know what to do. It's getting closer. I feel it. Every night, it's like it's trying to break through. I tried to calm him down, but how could I help him when I couldn't even help myself? I told him to leave, just pack up and go like I did. But before he hung up, he said something that still sends chills down my spine. "It doesn't matter where you go," he whispered. "It's not about the place. It's about us." That was the last time I ever heard from Tom. I tried calling him a few days later, but no answer. I called again and again. Still nothing. I even thought about going back to check on him, but I couldn't. I was too scared. A week later, I found out what happened. Tom's neighbor called the police after hearing strange noises coming from his apartment in the middle of the night. They broke down the door and found him dead. No signs of foul play, no injuries, just gone. The coroner said it was a heart attack, but I knew better. We both did. He didn't die from a heart attack. The darkness got him, and it's coming for me too. I can feel it. It's only a matter of time. You might be thinking this is just a story, something to scare you for a few minutes before you move on with your day. But what if it's not? What if the darkness I'm talking about is real? What if it's been waiting, watching, all this time? Think about it. Those moments when you're all alone and you feel like someone's watching you. Those unexplained creaks in your house at night. The shadows that don't quite look right. What if there's more to them than just your imagination? Have you ever felt like something was there, just beyond the light, like the darkness was alive? I want to know. Tell me in the comments if you've ever experienced anything strange. Maybe, just maybe, we can figure this out together. And while you're at it, hit that like button. Trust me, you're going to want to stay on the good side of the algorithm. But if you start hearing knocks at night, or if the shadows seem to move on their own, don't say I didn't warn you. After Tom's death, I spiraled. I knew the darkness wasn't done. I could feel it, closer than ever, like a shadow stretching toward me. Every night, the air in my apartment felt heavier, thicker. I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, waiting for something, anything, to happen. And then, one night, it did. It started with a sound, a low, distant hum. At first I thought it was just the fridge, or maybe the pipes. But no, it was something else. Something unnatural. The hum grew louder, almost like a whisper, just out of reach. And then, I heard the knock. 3 slow, deliberate knocks at my front door. I froze. For a moment I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. My mind raced. Was it really happening again? Was it coming for me now? I forced myself to get up, my heart pounding in my chest. The hallway was dark, too dark. It was as if the shadows had swallowed the light. I reached for the door, hand trembling, and pressed my ear against the wood. Nothing. Silence. Then, another knock. This time it was louder, more insistent. I knew I shouldn't open it. Every instinct screamed at me to run, to hide. But I couldn't. Something was pulling me, forcing me to face whatever was on the other side. I unlocked the door, my fingers shaking, and slowly, ever so slowly, I opened it, but no one was there. At least, that's what I thought at first. The hallway outside my apartment was empty. Just the dim light from the overhead bulb flickering, casting strange shadows on the walls. But then, I saw it. A figure, standing at the end of the hall. It was barely visible, like it was blending into the darkness itself. But I knew it was there, watching me. It didn't move. It didn't speak. It just stood there. A shape without form, a shadow without substance. And as I stared at it, I felt that same cold dread wash over me. The same dread I felt that night in the woods. I slammed the door shut, my hands shaking. I backed away, trying to calm the panic rising in my chest. But the feeling, the presence, It didn't go away. It was inside now. I could feel it, creeping through the walls, slipping through the cracks, filling the room with its suffocating weight. I wasn't alone anymore. That's when the lights went out. Total darkness. I stumbled back, reaching for the light switch, but nothing. My phone. Where was my phone? I fumbled in the dark, hands shaking, my breath coming in short, panicked gasps. Then I heard the whisper. It's too late. It was John's voice, clear as day, just like before. But this time, he wasn't in my head. He was here, with me. I turned, my heart pounding in my ears, and there, standing in the middle of my living room, was John. But it wasn't really him. It was something else. His face was twisted, pale, like a mask stretched over something dark, something ancient. His eyes were hollow, black pits, staring straight through me. It's too late, he whispered again, stepping closer. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. My body was frozen, paralyzed with fear as John, or whatever it was, came closer and closer. I could feel the cold radiating off of him, seeping into my skin, chilling me to the bone. Then he reached out. I don't remember what happened after that. 1 minute I was standing there, staring into those empty black eyes, and the next. I woke up on the floor, the sun streaming through the blinds. The room was warm again, normal, like nothing had happened. But I knew better. It wasn't a dream. It wasn't my imagination. It was real. John was real. And now, it's just a matter of time before he comes back. I don't know how much longer I can hold on. Every day, the shadows get a little darker, the whispers a little louder. It's like the darkness is closing in, piece by piece, waiting for the right moment to strike. Maybe it's already too late for me. Maybe it's too late for all of us. Tell me, have you ever felt like something was watching you? Like the darkness was alive? Do you believe in what hides in the shadows? Let me know in the comments below. I want to hear your stories. Maybe, just maybe, we're not so different after all. And don't forget to hit that like button. You'll want to stay on the right side of the darkness. Trust me. But whatever you do, if you hear knocking at your door late at night, don't open it. Because once the darkness finds you, there's no escape. The days after that night blurred together. I stopped going to work, stopped seeing friends. The world outside seemed distant, irrelevant. The only thing that mattered now was the darkness. It was everywhere. Every time I turned a corner, every time I closed my eyes, I felt it, creeping closer. And then it spoke. Again. It was a normal day. Well, as normal as things could get now. I was sitting in the living room, curtains drawn, trying to distract myself with the TV. But no matter how loud I turned the volume, I could hear it. John's voice, faint at first, but growing stronger, clearer. It's time. The words echoed in my mind, filling every corner of my thoughts. I got up, pacing the room, trying to shake the feeling. But it was useless. I was being drawn, pulled towards something I couldn't see. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw it. The door to my bedroom, slightly ajar. I hadn't opened it. I stood there, staring at the door. The darkness beyond it was thick, unnatural. It wasn't just the absence of light. It was alive, moving, swirling like a black fog. And from within, I could hear the whisper again. It's time. I knew what it meant. I had fought it for so long, tried to deny it, but there was no escaping it now. The darkness wanted me. It had always wanted me. I stepped towards the door, my heart pounding in my chest. The closer I got, the colder the air became. It felt like the life was being sucked out of the room, leaving only the void behind. I reached for the door handle, and then everything went black. I don't remember much after that, just fragments. I remember the cold wrapping around me, pulling me deeper and deeper into the darkness. I remember the whispers, growing louder, overlapping, filling my head until I couldn't think, couldn't breathe. And then I woke up. But it wasn't my apartment anymore. I found myself in a place I didn't recognize. The walls were cold, gray, like a hospital, but abandoned, decayed. The windows were cracked, letting in just enough light to see the dust hanging in the air. And I was alone. No sounds, no whispers, just silence. I wandered through the halls, my footsteps echoing, but no matter where I went, the rooms all looked the same, empty, forgotten, like time had abandoned this place long ago. But there was something else. I could feel it watching me, the darkness. It was here, waiting, lurking just beyond the corners of my vision. I couldn't escape it, no matter how fast I walked, no matter where I turned. And then I saw him. At the end of the hallway, standing still, was John. Or at least, what used to be John. His face was twisted, contorted in a silent scream, his eyes wide and empty. But he wasn't alone. Behind him, in the shadows, there were others. Faces I didn't recognize, but I could feel their eyes on me. They were trapped, just like me. That's when I realized this place. It wasn't just some abandoned building. It was a prison for those the darkness had claimed. I'm still here. I don't know how long it's been. Days, weeks, maybe even years. Time doesn't work the same here. The darkness, it's always watching, always waiting. Sometimes I hear the whispers again, calling me, trying to pull me deeper. But I won't give in, not yet. But I know one thing. Once you've been touched by the darkness, it never lets you go. It follows you, waits for the right moment, and when it finally claims you, there's no escape. So if you ever feel like something is watching you from the shadows, if you hear that faint whisper late at night, don't ignore it. Because once the darkness finds you, it's only a matter of time before it takes you too. And now I have to ask, do you believe in the darkness? Have you ever felt it creeping closer, hiding just beyond the light? Tell me your stories. Maybe you'll be the next one it comes for. And before you go, leave a like. You never know. It might just keep the darkness away for now. But remember, it's always watching. If this story gave you chills and kept you on the edge of your seat, don't forget to hit the like button. Your support helps us bring even more thrilling stories straight to you.